us for Action for Healthy Kids webinar, School Breakfast, Panel of Examples. This will be a Q&A format from those that are making it work around the country. My name is Ellen Dillon. I am going to be the moderator for today's questions and will be facilitating the conversation with our panelists. Just to make sure we are all in coordination with our logistics, you'll notice on the right-hand panel of your screen, you should have a panel that looks very similar to what's on my screen. You are able to listen via telephone or speakers, but know that everyone is muted. You can submit your questions, but know that we also did the survey prior to the webinar so that we're able to capture questions that you had and did our best to make sure that they will be answered during the webinar today. But if you have other questions that pop up, please put them in. We'll have an opportunity to ask our panelists your questions towards the end. This call is being recorded, so know that it will be followed up following the webinar. Probably in the next 24 hours, you'll receive an email with all of the slide deck as well as certificate of attendance and a recording of the call. So you should be getting that within the next 24 hours. So, oops, we skipped a screen. Nope. Sorry about that. So who are we? We are Action for Healthy Kids. If you are not familiar with us, we work on fighting childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity. We help schools become healthier places so kids can lead healthier lives. We believe very strongly that the schools can make a difference in reducing childhood obesity across the country. And we work with schools all over the country, and specifically this year also too in working with schools on school breakfast and improving school breakfast programs. So today's presentation will look a little bit like this. I will be doing a brief overview of school breakfast for those of you who aren't as familiar, and then we'll be going through some district highlights and school highlights. All of these schools are funded through Action for Healthy Kids and been working with Action for Healthy Kids this past school year, and we'll be able to hear a little bit about their programs, how they got started, and some of the things that are happening with their programs. We will have a Q&A round robin towards the end. So if you think about this as like a conference that you might have attended, you'll be able to have questions and have people responding to those questions towards the end. So if you have questions, go ahead and make sure you slip them into that question panel on the right-hand side, and we'll go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, we are Action for Healthy Kids. We were created in 2002 by Dr. David Satcher in an effort to reduce childhood obesity. And we have been working with schools, as I mentioned. We provide breakfast grants, we provide physical activity grants, and we really believe that we can make a difference by working through our schools. And the reason we do that is we know that schools are a place where we can teach children the basics in terms of learning how to make those healthy choices, and that we can do that throughout the school day as well as give them the skills they need to have to make those healthy choices throughout their lives. So in terms of school breakfast, you'll see it, we call it the benefits of school breakfast, the school breakfast trifecta. And you'll see that there are three main reasons why school breakfast is important. The first is that it's a health issue. We know that students who eat a school breakfast are healthier. They're eating more nutrients than they would if they weren't eating a school breakfast. The USDA controls and guides us on what we serve in the school breakfast program. So we know that children are eating the proper amount of calories as well as nutrients through the school breakfast program. It also helps to reduce childhood obesity because they're eating the proper amounts of food. One of the biggest things that people don't always realize is the academic achievement that comes by eating school breakfast. There have been studies that have shown that when eating school breakfast, scores are increased in math and cognitive tests. We also know that, and we see it all the time with principals who often come to food service workers and ask for breakfast during testing week. But it's not just during testing week. We really need to get kids eating breakfast all the time. And we also know that there is benefit to school breakfast through district funding. And by having a sustainable breakfast program, one that has kids coming in and eating, means that there's money in the food service and the nutrition department that enables them to expand offerings as well as create more interesting options and menu options as well. So if you want to know more about this learning connection, you can go to Action for Healthy Kids. We have a report that's very user-friendly, and it really details that link between learning and eating right, and school breakfast is highlighted in there. So we're going to be talking today about different models of school breakfast. First of all, we know that many schools, about 90% of the schools in the country, offer some type of breakfast. Often it is that cafeteria before the school bell, and that's what we would call a traditional breakfast model. And then we have what we also see as after the bell programs, such as breakfast in the classroom, where the meal is delivered to the classroom. Often you'll see that in K through 6 schools and classrooms. You might also find a grab-and-go model, and that means they grab it and go to the classroom or some other location within the school building that would be kid-friendly, user-friendly, where the children are able to grab and go. Often you can have this in any age group. You'll see this a lot in the upper grades, too. Then we have a grab-and-go to the hallway, or maybe they're able to pick it up and take it to their homeroom or a second period class. And you might see this in absolutely the upper grades, the 6 through 12, where there's more fluctuation in their schedules and ability to have more choice and opportunity. There's also another service model. We won't really be talking about it too much today, but it revolves around reimbursable vending, where vending machines are situated throughout the school and students are able to visit it before school and during the morning hours, where they get that reimbursable meal through their vending machine. And you'll often see this predominantly in high schools, but possibly in middle schools as well. So we've got lots of ways you can find more information. This webinar is not designed to really talk about the programs themselves, but really to hear about people who are making these programs work. So if you want more information, here are some links. Don't worry about it. You'll get these in the follow-up material, but you can find these in previous webinars that we've done that have really outlined these programs, the benefits, and how to create buy-in among the stakeholder groups. But now we're going to move to our panelists, and we're very fortunate to have a variety of panelists on our call today. First off, we're going to have Cindy Bailey. Cindy is the Director of School Nutrition Services in Wilson County Schools in Wilson, North Carolina. Cindy?
Yes, my name is Cindy Bailey, and our school district, we have a free and reduced participation rate, free and reduced eligibility rate of 70% district-wide. Wilson, North Carolina is about 40 minutes east of Raleigh. It's considered eastern North Carolina. And last year, prior to last year, we were a traditional cafeteria breakfast. And with the I was very much interested in the community eligibility program, and when I looked into it, this first year, all of our elementary schools are CEP. I presented this to my senior staff and the board with the stipulation that if we went with this, I wanted to have breakfast in the classroom so that I could capture the entire elementary population. This was well received by the senior staff and by the Board of Education. And with this being our first year, one thing I did do, I think, which was helpful, was that myself and my supervisors, last spring, we went to several districts within North Carolina that had various breakfasts in the classrooms going on. From those visits, we then came back and we customized it for Wilson County. Now, one thing I did do is my supervisors and I, as we went to the various districts in the early morning, we would walk the halls and talk to the teachers. These were districts that had breakfast in the classroom programs going for several years. And the one question we asked each of the teachers is that if you had an opportunity to go back to the cafeteria, would you? 100% of the teachers said no, 100%. That guaranteed for us that this was something that I wanted to buy into. We also formed a planning committee or a planning group in which consisted of 4 principals that were very much in support of having a breakfast in the classroom program. I also had 4 managers, my 2 supervisors, and myself on the committee, and we planned out as far as how we wanted Wilson County Schools breakfast in the classroom program to go. From that, as you can see from the slide here, this for our first year, my staff actually packed the cooler bags. One bag is a cooler bag for cold items, the blue one, and the red one is for hot. It has our logo on it. We actually came up with a breakfast in the classroom logo. We deliver these on carts. They're delivered to the classrooms by my staff early in the morning. Then so that when the teachers and the students arrive in the classrooms, the bags are there along with a caddy that has accessories, and it's there about 15 minutes before the teachers, and everything's set. Okay. Ellen, you want me to go to the next slide? There we go. Okay. Like I said, that's our logo that you're seeing there, Wilson County Schools Breakfast in the Classroom. We actually had a voting on this and design, not just within our child nutrition staff in the committee, and this was one of the best one that was selected. We had 3 or 4 entries. So we presented it, the whole breakfast in the classroom, last year to the senior staff in the Board of Education. We formed the committee, and it's been a positive. It really has. It's been mostly successful. Participation, we have gone up 30% consistently since August at all 14 of our elementary schools. I guess that's in overall, as far as we do monitoring in the classrooms, checking on how things are going in the classrooms on down to the trash bags to make sure this is a win-win not only for child nutrition but especially for the students and the teachers. In October we had an evaluation assessment of the committee. The principals and the managers and myself and the supervisors that were a part of this committee. So it actually was implemented in August, and then September and then part of October. That gave us about 6 weeks to kind of see how the program was going, and then we met, and overall everybody was really satisfied how it was going. I did an evaluation assessment, changed a few things on the menu, changed our trash bag, and that was pretty much it.
So Cindy, there are a couple of questions that we had that came in earlier that I think apply to your program. How important was this pre-planning group, and are you still currently meeting?
It was very important. It was very important. It was, first of all, I selected individuals that were going to support the whole idea of a breakfast in the classroom, and we got geared up for it. So we had more positive, and we're ready to make sure that everybody could buy into it as we move forward on it. Very important.
And then you mentioned rolling out to 14 schools, and we know that can be tricky. So what were some of the things that you did that made that process of multiple school rollout easier?
Well, I think one of the ones was we did a pilot during the summer. We have a few summer schools during the summer and that we operate on, and we did a pilot at one school with the bags, with the carts, everything. And we also did very thorough training, my staff and I, with the elementary staff, food service assistants, with the cafeteria managers. I actually met with the principals prior to school. Each of my managers met with the teachers at the teachers meeting, and we actually provided the managers with a mock training for the teachers, and the managers actually learned how to present this and answer questions for the teachers. And I think visiting the districts with the breakfast in the classroom also made the process easier. And then our marketing, we got out. We actually had it in the newspapers. Our local newspaper actually put our Breakfast in the Classroom logo in color. We were on the website, we got on the radio, and we also have an annual district back to school fair that's district-wide, and that was our theme for this year. Our booth was the Breakfast in the Classroom.
Great. So we have a couple of questions from our attendees, and I'll try to ask them real quick before we move on to our next speaker. So when you deliver breakfast to the classroom, how do you ensure that the kids are taking all of the required components and that their counting and claiming is done correctly?
That's a good question. What I have done is the committee looked at, and we made sure the entree products offer at least 2 breads or 2 breads and the other. We still go back to the meat, so I'm sorry. But 2 breads or the bread and the meat. Those products right there, the entree, has to have those 2 components. So the way we train the teachers is they have to take a juice or they have to take a fruit cup, which we offer, and then we provide the milk. And then they could take all 5. But we didn't. We saw at some districts they offered, we thought, my supervisor and I, was maybe too much. That's just our opinion, and it could get confusing for the teachers and confusing. I think the easier you make it on the teachers, the more they're going to buy into it. So that's why we just have kept to that entree being 2, so at least all that child has got to select is a juice, fruit, and plus a milk as far as that. But the juice and fruit they have to have.
Okay. And one more quick question. Did you add more staff?
No.
No. Okay. We're going to move on. I know some of you had some more questions, and I think they might be answered by some of our other panelists. And if not, we'll come back to you. So hold your questions.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry about that. I just cut her off. Thank you, Cindy. And we're going to go ahead and move on to
Yes,
Winnie.
that's fine. Thank
you. All right. So Winnie Brewer, she's Director of Food Services in Marion City Schools. Winnie, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon.
Great. And if you want to tell us a little bit about your school district and your program, please.
Sure. So we are a community-eligible district. So we have 9 buildings in our district. And we went community eligible in the pilot year for Ohio. So we're in our 3rd year of community eligibility, and we've had universal breakfast for quite a while. But with universal breakfast, we were doing it in the cafeteria, and it really wasn't working. A lot of resistance from teachers, a lot of resistance from custodial staff, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that, but I did have good support at the higher levels. Our superintendent recognized the need, and quite a few of the principals recognized the need as well. So what we did is we piloted one school to move breakfast to the classroom, and we use a grab-and-go system. We do not pre-bag it. We offer 4 different breakfast meal patterns at the middle school and high school level, and 2 different meal patterns at the elementary level, but the kids get to choose what they want from that. We had a lot of success in our first year at the first pilot elementary building, and what I did is every month I would send a graph to each principal that showed the participation at the building with breakfast in the classroom versus the participation in their buildings. So it was really hard for them to dispute whether or not it was going to work. We surveyed the teachers in the building that we were working with. We surveyed the custodial staff, and we were able to present that at principal meetings so that we could dispel a little bit of the argument as to why it wouldn't work. So from there, this year we moved breakfast to the classroom at all of our buildings. And we've seen as much as a 30% increase in some of our more lower percentage buildings. I mean, overall, we have 72% of our kids that eat breakfast now, which is pretty amazing, especially at the high school level. And again, I feel that we've attributed a lot of that success to offering different types of meal combinations, as well as, not pre-bagging. As you can see in the slide, we have breakfast carts, and those carts, the kids come through. We have a cook standing there so that they understand what the requirements are, what they have to take. There's bags available if they want to put things into a bag to carry it to the classroom, but they certainly don't have to. So that saves on labor. We did not have to add labor in order to make this work. The other piece that really helped us with the buy-in is we allow teachers to eat for free. And a lot of the times, especially at the middle school level, when the kids see the teachers eating the same things that they're getting for breakfast, or the teachers are excited about whatever that hot item might be for that day, that's definitely a strong encouragement to the students to want to eat that as well. So that's worked out really, really well for us. In this particular slide, this is the elementary building, which has about 1,000 kids in it, and out of those 1,000 kids, we actually serve 80% of those kids. We have carts stationed at where the bus drop-off is, where the parent drop-off would be, and then as well as other locations close to the stairs and that type of thing, so that we're capturing, each point of entrance for the kids as they come in.
Yeah, and that's interesting because a lot of people might put in one cart in a really high visible area, and then you still have lines and issues like that. So having those kiosks or carts in multiple places really helps. That's great. We have a couple questions in terms of talking about the teachers. So how are you able to pay for the breakfast for the teachers? Where does that funding come from?
Sometimes you have to look at your volume. So you have an extreme increased participation. And if you are budgeting your meals appropriately with your food costs, and the fact that we really didn't have to add labor to make this happen, your bottom line is going to be okay. I mean, in this particular building that you're looking at, there's 65 teachers in that building. But the cost is definitely defrayed by the increased participation, because I make sure that there's at least between 60 and 80 cents of wiggle room with each meal that's given out. So that gives us plenty of space to be able to provide those breakfasts to the teachers.
Great. Now we have a couple questions from our attendees. One of which is, what are some of the additional costs for equipment? So if you have multiple carts, how much do they normally cost, or what's involved with that?
Good question. Those carts are very expensive. The cart that you see right there is about $3,500. But it's great because you can do everything with it. You can put it's a hot well or a cold well, whichever way you want to work it. There's room underneath those carts for your milk to be in, so it's kind of a one-stop shop. And we reached out to our suppliers. Even if they didn't have a program where you can earn points towards carts. We reached out to them, told them what we were going to do, showed them our proof of how it worked in the first building and what we anticipated our volume to be, and a lot of them gave us discounts. One of them gave us a cart, actually. So actually 2 gave us a cart. 2 different suppliers gave us carts. So that was big. We applied for grants. There's a lot of grants out there that you can apply for. Action for Healthy Kids was definitely one of them that helped us tremendously to get this off the ground. And we used that money for carts and for insulated bags. Another thing that we did is we reached out to some of our local suppliers, such as our dairy, and we asked for, because we knew we would have increased volume, we asked for extra milk coolers, and then we strategically placed them in hallways. They can be locked, and we placed those in hallways so that there wouldn't be as much distance to travel to get milk, which also helped with our after-school program and with our snack program. And then we reached out to our trash provider, our trash pickup, Rumpke, and they provided us, because we wanted to use a recycling program for the milk cartons, they provided us with extra waste receptacles. So if you get a little bit creative with your programming, there's a lot of resources out there to help you make it happen.
Yeah. And then you talked earlier about maybe the support of custodians. What did you have to do, or what do you do with the trash as kids walk through? Do they eat it in their classroom, or are they eating it in the halls?
They eat it in their classroom. And one of the things I want to say about custodians, the biggest thing is they want to be heard. So you want to make sure that you communicate everything that you're going to do. Take their advice, take their comments, and try to really make them involved along the way. Walk the hallways with them in the morning and say, hey, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? What are your concerns? And then how we've managed it, we provide the trash bags, we provide the extra, higher grade liners in the classrooms, and then what happens is the teachers, if they want their trash removed after breakfast, they simply take that trash bag out and set it in the hallway, and the custodians pick that up after the first period. We're finding that a lot of teachers aren't concerned about that, and they can wait until the end of the day for their trash to be picked up. We really don't have that many buildings that have a concern of having that trash in the classroom during the day, but some do. So we've made it as easy as possible on the custodians, and we do have some support at the higher levels where we have some special needs classes that are always looking for activities that they can do to help around the school, and some of them have been able to go around and pick up that trash for us as well.
Great. Right. So thank you, Winnie. We're going to go ahead and move on to Crystal in Virginia. So I'm going to go ahead and mute your line, and we're going to move on to Crystal. Okay. Hi, Crystal.
Hi. How are you?
We're good. We're doing great. How are you? So we're ready to hear about what's going on in Mecklenburg County in Virginia.
Okay, well, my name is Crystal Crutchfield. I'm the supervisor of food services for Mecklenburg County Public Schools. We're a very small rural district located in South Central Virginia. We're almost like 30 minutes from the North Carolina border. We have a little over 4,600 students. We have 8 schools, 4 of which are elementary, 2 middle, and then 2 high schools. So this year, and I'm new to food services, this is my 2nd year. So I looked at, as other people did, some of the grants out there and found various grants for different, besides the traditional breakfast. So we went ahead and applied for those, and I had talked to the principals in both of our middle and high schools, and they were on board. But of course, with change, they had some concerns, trash being one, or with, middle and high school children, with change comes, hesitance on, we don't want food fights in the hallways or anything like that. So we had started it this year in August. And one of our principals, I'd really talked to them all about, higher test scores, kids don't get in trouble as much, they pay attention more in school, and that really hit home with one of our principals. So he allowed us to still have breakfast in the cafeteria, of course, but we have our breakfast cart at the front entrance of the school where the school buses come. So here, this school is in the slide is Bluestone High School, and you can see the kids line up and they come to the breakfast cart. And we, like the rest of them, didn't have to add additional staff. And what also helped us this year is we received new POS equipment. So we had more portable equipment, which made it a whole lot easier for us. But the kids come, say at Bluestone High School, come to the cart and they can pick up their bag and then add like their juice or their fruit and their milk. And the cashier there knows what makes the reimbursable meal. But what we also do, and the kids like it because it's more versatile. It gives them more time. They can eat in the hallway. There's extra receptacles there, so they can eat in the hallway. If they don't finish their breakfast, they can take it to their first block class. So it gives the kids time to still eat a healthy, nutritious breakfast, but be able to spend time in the hall with their friends. These breakfast carts that we have, we also use them at lunchtime for a snack cart. So kids can still go through the lunch lines and get their regular lunch, but then they can come still buy a nutritious snack where we have yogurt, additional milk, water, and other baked goods, baked chips, reduced sodium Doritos, things like that that are Smart Snack approved. So we use the cart as a dual use. So we have one school right now doing it within the outside of the cafeteria. Our other 3 schools, they still have the cart, so they do it within the cafeteria. So the kids can go through the regular breakfast line for a hot option, but go to the breakfast cart at the front of the cafeteria for a cold line. They still like that because it is faster and it gives them more time to eat. But like Winnie, each month I send a graph to the principals and show them like what kind of increases you can have by having this cart, you know, in more acceptable areas where students can get to them quicker. And I will say Bluestone High School, they've had huge increases. Last month, well, for January, they had a 140% increase in their breakfast program. So it does work, and we have had additional principals see that and see the statistics. So I had one at the beginning of this week call me and want to do it next year. And they only want to start as a test maybe on delay days or if they have special stuff, but at least we're moving in the right direction. We also had an elementary school learn about it, and they want to maybe pilot breakfast in the classroom. So even though I'm a presenter for this, I've learned a lot of additional tidbits from the previous 2 panelists.
So you had mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're
Crystal,
good. Go ahead.
So you had mentioned about your new POS system. So you do not, you're not a universal free school or a CEP school?
No, we are not eligible for that. We only have about 60% free and reduced, so we're not eligible at this time.
Okay, so we do have a few questions regarding the tracking of meals as well as, you know, having students pay or that need to pay or be reduced price. So do you use your portable system then? Is that what you use?
Yes, we have a portable system, and then all the students have either their ID number they can put in the system, or they all have badges that are scannable that they can use. And what we do is we track the usage by the cash register, basically. So like this breakfast cash register for them is register 4. So I know anybody that eats breakfast on register 4 is a grab-and-go breakfast. So that's how we can track it. We have a lot of parents, even though we have a new POS system, we have a new payment online system. So we've had a ton of parents do that, and that's been a big help because the kids don't have to worry about bringing money. They just put in their ID and the money comes off their account. And so it makes it faster also.
Now you also mentioned, especially at the high school level or the middle school level, you know, where the kids want to have that opportunity to hang out with their friends versus maybe going into the cafeteria. Are there any other considerations that you've also incorporated when working with the older students?
Yeah, and like they just want to be heard as well. So we talked to different student representatives as well and got their feedback on it, like where they thought the best places would be to put the cart, you know, survey on what breakfast items they thought would be most popular and easy for the kids to eat in the classroom because they would be doing other schoolwork as well. But just to make it easy and fast, and it's new to them, so they could think it's cool, but it's even better that they can still eat breakfast and talk to their friends.
Yep, absolutely. All right, super. So, Crystal, we'll be coming back to you in just a few minutes. We're going to go ahead out to Washington State and talk to Erica. Erica, are you with us?
I am. Thank you for the opportunity to let me share about our new Universal Breakfast Program. We are located in Hoquiam, which is on the Pacific Coast, probably a town no one's ever heard of, but we are close to 3 hours from Seattle, and so we're a great destination for tourists to come and relax at the beach. We are a very small school district. I am the supervisor with no other supervisory support, so I'm in charge of making sure everything at all the schools runs smoothly. We have now breakfast after the classroom in all of our 5 schools, but the program I'm really wanting to talk about and excited about is our breakfast in the classroom that is offered at our elementary schools. We also qualified for the community eligibility provision, which is wonderful because it does allow us to offer it free to all the students. It also freed up some time that I was on my responsibility to pay for as far as POS time. That was now we were able to give that time to the kitchen staff to be able to put the breakfast together. So I'd kind of like to talk about how we were able to get everyone on board. I had a principal that every time she saw me would always have that gleam in her eye that says, please, we want to serve breakfast to our kids. And so she was my motivator. And then because I knew nothing about breakfast after the classroom, I Googled it, and there is just a wealth of information. And so I spent a great deal of time learning how the programs work, looking at the standards of operations at different schools until I could kind of visualize how that would look in our school. And it's important to have that knowledge because when you start talking to your stakeholders, they need to know that you can do it. They need to feel confident in you. So I kind of penciled out a plan, and I kind of attacked it a little differently. First, I went to my boss and got her support, and she's the assistant superintendent. And I told her the benefits that the breakfast program would have, offering it to the kids after the bell, and we talked about how we could pay for it and how we could sustain the program. Then I had startup costs that I needed to figure out how to get funded, and at the time that we were working through the process in the early spring, there was the Meals for Kids Breakfast grant, which is now available right now. And that allowed us to apply for a grant that would pay for the bags that you see in the picture and 2 milk coolers that we needed to make sure we had enough storage space. From there, I kind of was kind of quiet, waiting to see about how this grant went. My first time writing a grant, and if we didn't have the funding for the startup, I wasn't quite sure how we could get the program going. So while we waited, I did have a meeting with each building principal and really gave them the pitch of the importance, showed them the data of how it can benefit the students, and I allowed them the time to think about it. Then I also started working on the operation plan. We have a very small food service staff. We only have 1 person in each cafeteria that's there for breakfast. So it was important for us to find a way to not have to have a lot of extra food service staff time. So we really have the students come and pick up the bags. They wheel it to the classroom. They set it out on the tables. And then when the breakfast is over, they wheel the bags back to the cafeteria. So that really saved on having to implement a lot of extra staff time. After we got the grant, I went back to my boss and I said, okay, we can do this. Are we going to try it? And she said yes. And then I went back to the principals, got their approval, and then I started doing more research, and that's where I found Action for Healthy Kids, and it's been a great relationship ever since. I attended a breakfast summit that was put on by Action for Healthy Kids in the Seattle area, where I was able to learn about the breakfast program, but I was also able to network with other school districts. And I have to say that finding a mentor is a must. I found a great mentor that I was able to talk with, and I call him on constantly. I also learned about grant opportunities, and at the time then I was applying for the Action for Healthy Kids grant. And I must say in that grant application, putting together a timeline of what I needed to do every month was probably the best tool I have ever had, and I still look at that and see if I'm on board, but it really made me put the process on paper. And then being part of the Action for Healthy Kids, I can't say enough about having our state program coordinator who is just there to ask for advice. She knows, if she doesn't know the answer, she knows how to find it for me. And so the support has been a real benefit to making sure our program runs well. So after we got my boss on board, the principals on board, we took the food service staff to see what breakfast in the classroom looked like at another school district. They said, oh, we can do this. This is going to be easy. Then it was when I decided that it was time to go to the administrators and the board, because I felt that it was more important to have the ownership of the people who were going to do the program first than to do it from the top down, telling them that we were going to do it. So we actually then took, our breakfast bags had arrived. I took the actual breakfast that we had served to the kids to the administrators and board, allowed them to see what it looked like, allowed them to go through the process of getting the food, eating the food. They thought it was a great meal. They were able to eat it in less than 10 minutes, very relaxing, and they bought into the program. It was the best. It was great. It was the best thing I could have ever done. I also showed a video that was from Logan Elementary in the San Diego Unified School District that's available online. And it is different than a lot of other breakfast in the classroom videos, because instead of just talking about the benefits, it actually shows how it is served. So they could visually see that we could do this, it's possible. I then did that with the staff at the beginning of the year, the teaching staff at all the schools, gave them the breakfast, showed them the video, gave them handouts of standard operating procedures, what they could do with their time, because instructional time was the biggest problem there. They were concerned they wouldn't have enough. So it allowed them to think about other things they could do while the kids were eating. The last group of people that we talked with were the custodians. And my mentor said, go to the person in charge of the custodians, talk with him, find out what your custodians need, and then meet as a group. They were the most fearful, but they have come out the winners. It takes them a lot less work to go and get the garbage at first recess out of the classrooms than it did to monitor breakfast and clean the cafeteria in the morning. So they're big fans of the breakfast program. From there, one of the most surprising things was the ownership that the students have. The students, we served about 90% of the kids in the 3 elementary schools, and the students love to participate. They love to be responsible to get the bags. They love eating together, and it's just been a real win for our school district.
That's, I'm glad you mentioned that about utilizing students to help in ownership. I think that really is important. I think we can see that in some of the examples from everybody here today, but also, you know, when you involve them both in decision making as well as in the process of implementation, then they do. It's important to them, whether it be their sense of responsibility or the fact that they like it and they don't want to lose it. And that can go for, you know, the upper grades as well as in terms of keeping things clean and neat, as well as the lower grades and making sure they're following through. So you did a lot to get the buy-in of your superintendent and board. Do you think that really made a difference in being able to roll this out in multiple schools in your district?
Definitely. It's already been mentioned. Probably the most resistant, and we still have a few holdouts, are the teachers. And when they want to go and say, I don't want to do this, when everyone else above them can see the benefits, they know what the program looks like. They were part of the program when I served it to them. They've seen it on a video. they're able to say, hey, this is one of the best things we can do for the students to prepare them. We have such an area of depression. We hold the record usually every month for having the highest unemployment in our state. We have kids that come with great needs every morning, and it has cut down on absenteeism. It has cut down on tardiness. It has cut down on visits to the nurse. And the board and the superintendent could see that by what I presented. And so it was great to not just have me as the food service director say, hey, we're going to do this, but to be able to be as a whole body and a whole group to say this is a great thing and we'll get through the problems. And there have been some funny little things that have come up, but we've addressed them and moved forward.
Great. So we're going to now unmute all of our panelists. So we've got Cindy, Crystal, Erica's already unmuted, and Winnie. And we have a few questions that we wanted to make sure that we tried to address with the group. We've got a bunch of questions that have been coming in. I think as I scan through them, I see most of the questions have been answered by all of our panelists. But one of the areas that we haven't really talked about is parents. And I wanted to know if there's anyone that's had any coordination with parents or has had to handle parents who would prefer to feed their children at home, and how, especially with breakfast in the classroom, you've managed that. Is there anyone that could speak to that?
I can tell you what we did. I did have a conversation in the springtime with the principals and their teaching staff, and at that time one of the teachers did ask about that. So what we came up with was an opt-out form. So we have two options. Parents who want their children to only eat at home can sign a form that then, until they come and re-sign a form that says they opt in, we just don't serve that child, and then they find other activities to do during that time. But every child has the option to opt out every day. So some kids will say, I ate at home, I prefer not to eat today. But we really do try to be sensitive to each family's needs.
Anyone else have anything to add to Erica's? Okay. We've gotten a few questions related to other tracking measures in terms of, I know I heard Erica mention attendance has improved. Were there any other tracking mechanisms that anyone's done in terms of whether it be attendance or nurses' visits or anything like that?
We're currently tracking nurses' visits due to another program that we have as well. So I think we're going to be able to use dual information there. So I'm anxious to see, and we're also going to track test results too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's sometimes you don't get that until a little bit later after a program has been launched too. So it's always interesting to see after the fact how those scores look, but it's hard to always attribute it to a breakfast program too. Anyone else tracking anything or doing any other measures?
No, Wilson County is not really at this time, just being our first year, but I've been in contact with the nurses and trying to see what type of impact this would have.
And we have another question. It relates back to attitudes and feedback. So I think maybe it was Cindy. I think you said something, or maybe you mentioned it to me previously, that you're going to be having a survey of of all the stakeholders, parents, teachers, students.
Yes, we're doing a survey. In fact, it'll be out sometime next week on our website, and it's a survey through SurveyMonkey and for all the stakeholders, and we're going to announce it over Connected phone message to the parents. We're going to have it in our weekly Wilson County Schools newsletter. Try to get the word out that it's available. I'm going to have it up for about 2 weeks and then see what the data looks like. And in March, the Board of Education wants an update as far as how the breakfast in the classroom is going with the elementary. Of course, on a monthly basis, I'm sending data to my the assistant superintendent, the superintendent of just the elementary schools as far as for each month what the current participation and revenue was for this current year, for this particular month versus what it was last year. So,
great.
Yes, but we are doing the survey.
Great. Anyone else doing any type of surveys? Okay. We have a lot of questions, and I just want to do a quick time check. We have about 5 minutes to the top of the hour, so we're going to try to be mindful of everyone's time, so we may not get to them all. But we do have quite a few questions regarding food options as well as nutritious foods and how to best provide nutrition education messaging as well with the breakfast. So I was wondering if there was anyone that wanted to maybe share some of the breakfast items that they provide to students. I know, Winnie, with you provide the 4 options. Do you want to provide maybe a few examples, or maybe without naming any product names, because we try not to endorse products or anything like that, but share a little bit about your healthy food options?
Sure. So one of the things that we do to encourage fresh fruits and vegetables is we have fresh fruits and vegetables every day on our carts. So they can choose, it could be a variety, apple, banana, orange, but we have at least 2 fruit choices and at least 1 vegetable choice at the elementary level. You'd be amazed at how many kids actually like to eat baby carrots for breakfast, so don't rule them out. And celery with peanut butter, that's another big hit in the morning. So that's one of the things that we do. It's really all about choices, and then we do try to have at least three times a week a warm item, and without talking about the different possibilities of warm items, but we do make it the simpler items that are pre-bagged, individually wrapped. It makes it a lot easier for everybody. And then one of the things that we do to encourage the fresh fruits and vegetables is we have a very low-fat, low-calorie dip that we use. It's called a creamsicle dip. It tastes kind of orangey, and it's made out of yogurt, and that really does encourage the consumption of those items. So those are some of the things that we use, and again, I go back to variety. It's really all about giving kids choices. You can have the same things on the carts pretty much on a daily basis, but if there's 4 different meal patterns to choose from, that's 4 different days that, and some kids like to eat the same thing every day. So I really think it's just about giving them the choice.
Great. Anyone have any other thoughts or ideas that are working in your programs?
I have one. This is Cindy Bailey from Wilson County, and actually it was one of our teachers at one of the elementary schools that came up with this, and it's a sharing table. We have a lot, we were talking about nourishment and all. We have a lot of students. We're a poor county also, but students come in and they've been picking up the items and they take them to their table. Well, some students have come in, they only want a juice, but the teachers have to, of course, make sure they actually comply with USDA and get a reimbursable meal. Well, it's like I said, one of the teachers thought of this. She had a sharing table, and that item, if the student only wanted the juice, that student would take that unopened package or unopened fruit cup or unopened fruit juice or whatever, and actually put it on the table. Once they went through the line, the classroom, and went through the bags and picked up an offer versus serve. Why did they do that? Because there's other kids that are more hungry. And so those kids, that would give them the additional fruit, the additional milk or entree they needed to get through the day. And those teachers, it has caught on very well. All that food on the sharing table then is, of course, discarded. We don't count that again. We don't double dip or anything. But before, I really didn't promote it. We had a state review team here in early December, and my consultants that were here they were okay with it. They thought as long as we followed the procedures. But it reaches those children that, yes, need just that little extra because they are hungry. And who better to know than the teachers that see them every day.
And that helps to eliminate waste, too.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, true.
So we're at the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and move on. Thank you for our panelists for your time. Thank you for all the attendees with all of your questions. We hope you'll continue to follow us from Action for Healthy Kids. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest. We have lots of ideas and ways to improve the activities in your schools, whether it be related to nutrition or physical activity or school breakfast, and we hope that you'll continue to find us and like us and follow us as well. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to take the Every Kid Healthy Pledge. This is a pledge to make sure that every child as well as every school becomes a healthier place. So I encourage you to do that if you have not already done so. If you have any questions that were burning questions that did not get answered today, you feel free to follow up with me. I will be following up with you with the materials that were mentioned in today's webinar. You will receive the recording as well as the slide deck, and you will also get a certificate of attendance. So thank you again to Cindy, Crystal, Erica, and Winnie, and Caroline on the back end answering questions. Thank you for joining Action for Healthy Kids webinar, and we hope you'll join us again in the future. Have a great rest of your day.